Okay, good time to get going. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I know we've got a big 3-hour block for this meeting. We definitely don't expect it to take the full 3 hours, but we wanted to leave enough time for all the question and answers we may have from returning and incoming families, and make sure that you guys all got your questions answered tonight as we lead into an exciting time here, brand new baseball season. So my name is Seth Marsalik. I'm the interim president here with Duluth709 Baseball. I work in conjunction with a good sized board here. That's really the only way this continues to work as well as it has. It's a very committed group of senior leadership, and we've worked very hard to be able to mentor new families into committee roles and eventually into board roles within Duluth709 to be able to provide a nice, stable experience that we hope to be a generational experience beyond just the beginnings with.
Sit there. I don't have the right of way.
For those
Seth, you muted yourself.
I think somebody muted me when everyone got muted. No problem. We got a big group tonight, and that's exciting to see. It looks like a lot of families are excited to get into the season. So again, I think we'll go around and introduce the board here real quick so you guys can understand how things get done here. Again, these are folks that have been around for quite a while now and are very good at what they do. I will say, as the interim president, my job here is to kind of make sure all the trains are on time and get you guys questions answered and create the best experience in conjunction with the board that we can create. I'm a lifetime Duluthian. I went to Duluth East High School. I'm a 99 grad, played baseball at UMD thereafter. And I've been around baseball probably since I was 6 years old. So it's a big part of my life, and I know a big part of the lives of a lot of our families. So if you don't already know me, feel free to reach out and introduce yourself. Happy to always meet new baseball-minded folks. One of the things you're going to see woven into this introduction of the board is different opportunities within 709 through the different aspects that these folks oversee to provide support and volunteerism. One of the things that we collect during registration is a volunteer fee, and you can either choose to simply donate that fee and not volunteer your time, or choose to volunteer a minimum of 8 hours in conjunction with the season and get that fee refunded. So as we go through these introductions, we want to give you guys a sense of all the different places where volunteer opportunities are available to you guys, whether that comes in the form of serving on a committee or working on the fields or coaching a team. You're going to hear that during introductions here, and feel free to follow up with those folks or myself personally if you have questions about those specific opportunities. As it relates to the volunteer options from the president's role, I will say we've got a couple different board positions open right now. One is a safety manager or director of safety. I'm currently handling that role in conjunction with a few other folks in preparation for the season. But if anyone has a background in OSHA or a background in the medical fields and has a passion for seeing a good balance between seeing the game played and seeing the game played safely, feel free to reach out to the 709 email inbox or myself personally to express your interest. And we would love to hear more from anybody that'd be interested in that role. In addition to that role, we're looking for an equipment coordinator, someone that's going to help us in ordering jerseys and getting enough baseballs and backfilling catcher's gear, those types of things. Another really good volunteer option for someone that's good and highly organized. And then lastly, we're also looking for a concession manager. This has been a big part of our ability to keep the costs down as part of Duluth709 baseball. Lake Park baseball and Western baseball is getting a good qualified concession manager. The concession manager position that's open this year is at the Lake Park facility, working in conjunction with the youth Lake Park group, which is the younger kids, as well as Duluth709. So if any folks are interested in stepping up into that role, we would really love to hear from you as well. So those are the items I would put out for volunteer options. With no further ado, I'll introduce Ryan Grumdahl, who is our vice president and chairs our field and facility committee. Ryan, if you want to say a few words about your role here and identify a few volunteer options for folks working with you, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Seth. Hey, everybody. I'm Ryan Grumdahl. I'm Vice President of 709 Baseball. And I grew up playing at Lake Park Baseball since I was probably 9 years old, and lived on the North Shore. And my son has played there for many years. We've got an exciting year coming up. Hopefully COVID subsides and we can get everyone back out on the fields and have a lot of fun. We try to keep our fields in pristine condition, and we're always looking for volunteers to help out, raking fields, taking the groomer out, pulling weeds, mowing the grass, whatever needs to be done, closing the place down at the end of the night, locking all the doors, putting stuff away. It takes a community to keep that place going, and we try to keep everything looking the best that we can up there. So I would love to have a few more volunteers that on certain nights that we're not there, core group that has been there for years, to learn how to run the new groomer that we got last year. The thing is great. We're always looking for people to help out, keep the fields looking nice, and keep everything so that it's, the next group comes in, the field should be groomed and ready to go, so you don't have to do all this work. So, we love having everybody up there. It's a great place to meet in the summer and play some baseball. Great memories are made at Lake Park and other places in Duluth. So, yeah, other than that, I'm VP. I would say, come out to the park. Hope everybody can make it this summer. Hopefully with the snow melting, we'll be up there sooner rather than later.
Appreciate that, Ryan. Ryan, one other item, just to field a quick question in terms of the committee you serve that looks after the facility and the fields themselves. Do you have any open committee spots within your group, or are you pretty well flush?
No, we do. We could use a few more people to help out on field maintenance, to serve on that committee and role and get some fresh ideas. We've got some projects that we'd like to get going this year to, help the facility. We've got a new batting cage that we'd like to get going, and some other projects. We've got some unfinished projects from last season. We're always looking for bodies and people to help out to keep the place going. So there's opportunities to serve on the field maintenance committee up at Lake Park. There's always people that we need to run and get materials and keep that place looking great. Long tradition that we'd like to keep going. So
appreciate that, Ryan. I will say the committee roles that he's referring to, guys, is more large scale planning in terms of facility improvements and maintenance. It's really the idea board in terms of how we would love for our facility to continue to progress. So that really puts you in the planning process, and it kind of puts you on a track to take on a leadership role over time within the organization. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to Ryan directly or to the general email, and we will connect you. Let's move on to Tom Beresford, our committee chair for player and coach development. Tom, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for attending tonight. Good to see you all. My name is Tom Beresford. I have been player development chair for, I think, 3 seasons now. Primary role with the board is to facilitate our evaluations at the start of the year, find coaches for our tournament teams and house league teams, and kind of lead the committee of people that is in charge of those kind of aspects of the game that really tries to provide a good experience for the kids on the field. So we are, again, just like Ryan's group and in any of our committees, always looking for people to get involved. There's certain aspects of scheduling or certainly coaching. If anyone is interested in coaching, that's kind of what our committee gets involved in. So registration is open. I think Seth will probably get into this a bit, but registration is open for Duluth709 Baseball at Duluth709Baseball.com. If you have a 10 through 15-year-old, right, Seth?
Yep.
That's where you would go to register. Registration for the younger levels, anywhere from 4 up to age 9 or 10, you can register at lakeparkbaseball.com for the season. Or if you're in the west part of town, it's westernlittleleague.org, I believe, for the Western registration. Is that right, Corey Burhel, for Western? Seth, do you know?
Yes, that's westernlittleleague.org is where they go there. So
Thank you. So yeah, just to echo the sentiments of Mr. Grumdahl and Seth, we're always looking for people to help us out. Looking forward to a great season. We'll have a little more information in a little bit about our upcoming evals and kind of some of the start of the season things that'll be coming up. But for now, I'd ask that you encourage families that you know in our community and with it throughout Duluth to go get registered, get their names on the list. If people have interest in volunteering to coach, you can do that through the Duluth709 website or the other websites that we've already mentioned. So thank you all for coming again.
Thank you, Tom. Let's turn it over to Kelly Larson, who's our newly named fundraising committee chair. Kelly, if you want to introduce yourself and give a little sense of your background and what you're responsible for and what volunteer options they have with fundraising, that would be great.
Okay. Hello, I'm Kelly Larson. Grew up in the Gary Morgan Park area. My son has been playing for Western. He started with Western about 10 years ago. Now he's in 709 baseball. I am the coordinator for fundraising committee, and what we do is put together events or whatever we're allowed to do. This year it can be quite the same as normal, is because we're not able to get together in big groups and stuff. So we're just trying to get like online fundraising events going, and we also look for sponsorships from local businesses and to help out the organization. Sorry about my background noise. But we do need a lot of extra help right now because we are short fundraising committee members. So if anybody would like to earn their volunteer hours or come be part of our committee, that would be wonderful. I don't know, that's about it.
Kelly, that's perfect. I appreciate that. That committee is about 4 people strong right now, guys. And ideally, we like to see our committee sizes somewhere between 6 and 7. So again, a really good place to be able to get some volunteer opportunities done. That committee meets once a month and just kind of spreads the load and engages the board and the different families within the community, and especially the business owner types, to try to do what we can to help keep the costs and keep baseball affordable for all these kids that want to play or need a scholarship opportunity. It's a really good place to spend some time. If you don't have a strong baseball background per se, but you want to make a difference, working with Kelly and her team are an ideal place to do that. So thank you for your introduction, Kelly. Let's move on to Jim Booz and Kyle Lynn. They are our co-chairs for the tournament committee. Jim, if you might want to lead and talk a little bit about what committee you guys lead, and Kyle, why don't you chime in and fill in any blanks thereafter? I think that would be ideal.
Hello, my name is Jim Booz. I'm a collegiate volleyball coach, so clearly I belong on the youth baseball board. I run the tournament committee. We run a tournament through our Duluth709 organization, June 11th through the 13th. So have that on your calendar. There are multiple volunteer opportunities through the weekend, from field supervision to actually helping turn the fields over, to concessions, etc. In addition, our committee itself could probably use another body or two if anyone was interested in helping with the organization and the running of the tournament that we do run. We would love to have another person or two join us somewhere along the way.
Perfect. Kyle, anything you would add to that?
No, hey everybody, Kyle Lynn, Duluth-born native. No, I think Jim hit it right on the head. The big thing is day of tournaments. There are a lot of bodies, a lot of people needed. It's a team event. I think we put on some of the best tournaments around the area, and that's due to the hardworking people that are involved. And we can use more and more every year. And it's always a great time. You get to know some great people, and come on out, help us out. We could use you.
Appreciate that. I think I would typically introduce our treasurer here, but she's out in Two Harbors and has a little bit of a spotty connection right now. She just texted me. Her name is Chrissy Gildersleeve, has been responsible for our treasurer position now for many years, but her son is going to be aging out this year. So if anyone has an accounting background or a financial background and would be interested in mentoring into that role over the course of this year and working with her, that would be another great place where we could use some assistance as well. So feel free to reach out on the treasury side if there's an interest there. Let me turn it over to our Director of Officials, Chad Clore, who again has been serving in that role since the beginning of 709. And he can talk a little bit about his role and the opportunities available with officiating.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. Try and be quick here and consider everyone's time. First thing I'll just give you a little background on my own. I am not a Duluthian. I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. Have a fairly extensive background in umpiring baseball. I'm currently still a licensed Minnesota State High School League official. Was also Indiana High School State official and did a little college baseball in my day as well. I have a passion for teaching. Feel like we can make a bigger impact by teaching kids how to officiate than just going out and officiating, I guess, personally for my own self. So a couple of things I want to hit on real quick with this group is there's been some nice changes to the schedule for baseball this year that is going to provide kids between 12 and 15 years old a better opportunity to umpire baseball games. If you have a baseball player that has any interest in officiating or trying officiating and umpiring, what we need you to do first is to go to the 709 website and register as an umpire. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. The whole point of the registration is so that we can contact you and let you know the opportunities that are available. Some of those opportunities here early in the season, we will hold a clinic hopefully this year. I guess I should temper my enthusiasm a little bit to make sure we're going to be able to do that in the COVID environment that we're in. But the clinics are important to do every year, and I like to do those right before the season kicks off so that they're fresh, and hopefully we can do them outside. But there will be clinics, and if you are registered as an umpire on the 709 website, then you'll get notified of when those clinics are and where they are so that you can show up for those if you're interested. So if you have any interest at all, if you have a ball player that has any interest at all, please have them go to the website and register. It's right under the registration tab. They have a registration for coaches, players, and umpires. So I'd ask you to do that. I'm also hoping there will be an opportunity during player evaluation periods to get umpires that are registered in the cage. I'd like to be there and get in the cage with some of those umpires and start the process of working on how we operate a clicker and give the count, call balls and strikes. I'll give you just a little more detail from a schedule standpoint, kind of the vision that we have for growing the group of umpires in Duluth is we'd like to see 12 and 13-year-old kids get involved at the minor league level as an umpire. And that's the schedule change we've made. If you have a 12 or 13-year-old, they will be more available than they have in the past to umpire minor league games on the nights that they don't play. The whole point of that process is for those kids to get an opportunity to run a counter, give the count, keep a ball in play, call balls and strikes, call outs and saves and fairs and fouls. It's a great place to get your feet wet and kind of get a taste for what the job is about. Wear a mask, wear the equipment, wear the uniform. And then what we'd like to see, if we have kids that start at 12 and 13, that enjoy it and continue to grow at the 14 and 15-year-old age level, then we have an opportunity to move some of those kids to the major level. And that's just kind of a natural progression, and also an opportunity to kind of do things without some of the pressure, I think, that we often put umpires into situations where they feel too much pressure too soon before they've had an opportunity to be properly mentored and trained. So that's the thing we're trying to change, trying to fix. So again, if you had a kid that's interested, please get them registered so that you can be in the communication loop on what's coming up for umpiring with 709. The last thing I'll kind of touch on, from a volunteer standpoint, most of the people in our group, our small umpire group, are umpires themselves. As far as their scheduling, we have a guy that does tournament scheduling, and then we'll need help with scheduling at Lake Park and at Wheeler for 709.
Zoom meeting,
And then
709.
but there is potential couple opportunities if someone was looking for volunteer work. We are looking at changing the way we pay umpires and potentially doing a direct deposit. And so if anyone has any experience with setting up direct deposit or managing direct deposit, we could use your expertise in that manner. And then another one would be equipment. Usually for the younger kids at the early age, we don't like to ask them to have to invest in equipment in order to umpire. So we need to be able to provide that equipment for them. So that would be more along the lines of keeping inventory and taking care of the equipment and making sure the equipment's counted for, and then replacing equipment when necessary. But there are opportunities to work with the umpires in a volunteer capacity if anyone would be interested in that. And specifically, like I said, we could definitely use some help on the direct deposit side. This is something we've battled with for a few years as to how's the best way to get umpires paid when they work. And I think the future of that is going to be a direct deposit system. Just hasn't been implemented, and we could use help getting that started. So that's what I got. Thanks, Seth.
Appreciate it, Chad. Thank you for the rundown. Let's turn it over to our communications director, Phil Davidson. He handles our outward-facing marketing and social media. Phil, if you want to kind of give the group a sense of your role here and any help you may need from the community, that would be great.
Thank you, Seth. Again, Phil Davidson, communications director. Basically, right now, I'm new to this position, but I will be just sending out like the marketing and communications, like Seth said. At this point, I don't necessarily need help yet, but I will be looking for things throughout the year, probably, great stories that happen throughout the year, whether that's volunteering or during games and things. And we can get that out on social media and keep building our social media presence. So right now I'm currently trying to get you more information about registration and this town hall meeting and things like that. So I'll be here.
Thanks, Phil. He makes a good point there to the group. As we move forward this year, if you guys find yourself with great pictures or videos that can be shared and released and used for media content, we love being able to share fun stories about what's happening within the organization. And any moms or dads that are sitting on the foul line, collecting some content and find a special moment within a game, Phil's a great outlet to be able to share that with the community and the Northland as a whole. So bring that content to him with your permissions, and we would love to be able to utilize you guys for building the story here. Let's turn it over to Jen Booz, who's our travel director as part of the group. Jen's been with us since the very beginning. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Jen, and let the folks know your background and places that you could use some support as needed.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Booz. I'm travel coordinator for 709. Yep, I've been with them since the beginning. I love baseball. I've been playing it when I was little, and my boys have been playing it since they were 3 and 5. So we're pretty involved in that. What my job on the board is I am the travel coordinator, and what that means to you, if you play tournament ball, you don't have to worry about setting up your hotel rooms when we do travel. I will take care of all of that. Great opportunities for you to get involved in what I do is because there are several different teams, I can't take. So then I have people that work with me, and then your team, your travel team would have one person that you would go to, and I would help coordinate all that. So at the end of the day, you'll get a person who is in charge of your team, and they will make all the arrangements for your hotel. And all you have to do is say, hey, we're going here, and click on the link and get your room set up. So, and then the neat part about that too is not only do you not have to do the work, but your whole team gets to stay together. So if you are interested in that, it's basically researching some hotels, looking at cities, seeing what your team needs and where you want to stay, and then getting the block set up with the hotel so that your parents can block from there. Let me know, and I'd love to have you on my team.
Thank you, Jen. Let's turn it over real quick to Andy Hayden, who is our webmaster here at 709. He's done some incredible things in terms of how we're able to host tournaments, how we're able to complete registration in a thorough way, and just building out and making it more user-friendly for you guys. Andy, if you'd go ahead and introduce yourself and provide any background and options on where you could use some support, that would be great.
Thanks, Jeff. My name is Andy Hayden. Like he said, I'm the website coordinator. My baseball background, unless you count my time with the 1981 Eau Claire Esser Angels T-ball team, I haven't played a whole lot of baseball, but both my boys play for 709, and I enjoy supporting them and the organization as much as I can. If anybody has website building background or experience and wants to get into it a little bit, would always be happy to bring somebody else on to work through some of that. But other than that, I'll keep it brief. On to the next one.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Andy. I think we'll look to close out a few items here, just a few other folks to introduce, and certainly last but not least, I want to introduce our high school coaches. Nick Garamoni can't join us tonight, but he's the newly named head coach up at Marshall School. He wasn't able to be here tonight due to some family commitments, but also joining us will be is Joe Wickland, the head coach at Duluth-Denfeld, and Chris Silliendahl, the head coach at Duluth East. And speaking with these guys, they've all officially taken on at-large board positions here at Duluth-709. And the reason we do that is we always want to stay connected with our high schools and make sure that we're planning and preparing our kids, not only to have an enjoyable experience here as part of the youth program, but work in conjunction in terms of best practices and formatting and mental approach. So these kids are as ready as they possibly can be to have really successful prep careers. And having these guys involved in what we do on a regular basis really makes a huge difference. So we're very excited to have them on an official capacity this year. And I'll ask Joe and Chris to say a few words. Chris, let's start with you. If you want to just introduce yourself and give the group a sense of how East works in conjunction with 709, that would be great.
Hey, yeah, Chris Silliendahl here. The head coach at Duluth East. This will be my 7th season. Also the 8th grade FIAD teacher at Ordine East Middle School. So some of your kids that are coming up, either have them in class or will have them in class if they plan on going to East. So, but my role here with the board is player development. This year we're going to be kind of doing the evals for the 15s and 14s to help out the 709 program. But yeah, I like to, as a head coach at the high school level, I really like to see the direction that this is going, and I feel like this is really going to benefit us in the long run.
Appreciate that, Chris. Thank you. Joe, let me turn it over to you. Same question. If you give these guys a little sense of where you're coming from and how you see us connecting with Duluth Denfeld, that would be great.
Hi, everybody. Joe Wicklund, Denfeld's head coach. Like Chris mentioned, I think that the piece that we bring in terms of a value add is just the connection between the young youth programs and the structure that Seth, Tommy, and so many other folks have built, and then how it carries up to what we're trying to accomplish, both at the high school level and at the Legion level. Both Chris and I coach our respective Legion teams for Denfeld Marshall with the West Duluth Cubs, where I am, and Lakeview, where Chris is on the east side. So a lot of good connectivity and a lot of good people working with your kids all the way top to bottom. I apologize because I'll have to run tonight after this, but you might have some questions from the parents' perspective about overlaps. Coach Silgenel mentioned the idea of 14s and 15s and some of the ways that we'll be taking a look at those. But just know that the high school coaches and your 709 leadership are working really closely together to make it a great experience. So that way, in the spots where, hey, my kid is thinking about high school baseball, is thinking about 709, we're going to work together to make sure that that's a good experience and kids are slotted in the right spot to have a great experience this spring and summer going forward. That's probably, I mean, I've been involved with 709 on the player development committee where I do most of my work now, at the tryouts and the kind of grading out of athletes and kids as they were getting ready in previous years. And that kind of continuity is the part I think that's been probably the biggest benefit when I look at it as a high school, really great baseball that kids have been out at a young age and then carrying all the way up to high school. So appreciate it, Seth. And again, sorry I have to jump off, but a lot of the other questions that folks might have about where high school fits, they can certainly reach out to me, or I know Coach Silgenel is probably having to duck out too. Can reach out to us through the 709 site. We're both super accessible. And we're still, of course, like a lot of people, waiting for total clarity on what we're dealing with in this spring season, when we can start connecting with our kids in regards to the changes that have happened regarding COVID. So thanks a lot, everybody. And thanks for being interested in 709. It's an awesome organization. And
I was glad he was able to get, it's great he was able to get most of that in. And like I said, I appreciate the coaches and all their involvement in making sure that this is a great feeder program into what baseball is becoming here. I will close with one last person who now serves in an at-large position here. He is our ex-president as of last year, or as of this year, I should say. Corey Verrill has been integral in terms of the opportunities that have been created here with 709. He continues to serve in a very active at-large capacity and at the committee role level as well. Corey, if you'd like to give the folks a little background on yourself and identify any other volunteer options. I mean, they were pretty robust when you go down everything we've been able to portray tonight. But if there's anything you think has been missed or any message you think is poignant to our audience tonight, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Seth. Corey Verrill. As Seth mentioned it previously, in the first 3 years of the organization, served as the president. Now I sit on the fundraising committee and also on the player development committee. But I'm a lifelong Duluthian, played baseball my whole life, huge passion for it. I played at Western Little League. I played at Denfeld High School, went on to play at UWS, and I'm now hopefully gonna continue my 22nd season of playing amateur baseball too. Still hanging on a little bit, but beyond that, just like I said, a huge passion to keep baseball thriving in Duluth and continue to fight for the sport and as many challenges as we have in this area. We've got a great group of people involved with 709, and it's it's the organization as a whole puts a lot of time into making baseball what it is and continuing to improve each year on all levels of baseball. It's why we came together as a citywide organization. It's why we continue to work together, continue to add as many quality baseball people into the organization, and some we want to continue to work on. So the opportunities really lie, if I talked about my passion for baseball, and a lot of people here already talked about why they're involved, what they do. It's really, if you have a passion for it in any kind of sense, we're always willing. You can jump on any committee if that's the type of commitment you want. We would look at other board positions if there's something you directly have a passion for. We're we'll create something for you to match the commitments, match the passion, things like that. We previously mentioned, Kelly mentioned on the fundraising committee, we need a few more people just to get involved and help identify, different ideas, different businesses to reach out to, different things that we can do as an organization to help fundraise and create more and more opportunities as an organization, or scholarship opportunities, or different things along those lines. So beyond that, I would say anybody who just wants to get involved, that's what we really are. We're not anything beyond a good organization if we don't involve as many people as we can that want to be involved and want to feel connected to a sport that we all love and that their kids love to play. So definitely reach out in any way possible to get involved if you can. So
Appreciate it, Corey. Thank you. So again, I think introducing the board and doing that at the front of the meeting, guys, is more so than anything else. I want you to take two things from that. One, I want you to understand how many people it takes to run an organization like this and run it well. And two, I also have a sense for the fact that these aren't all people that have played the game and know a ton about baseball. There's a lot of good-hearted people that see the value in serving on behalf of their children and their friends. And regardless of their baseball background, they choose to put their time and whatever their expertise is to creating a better experience for the entire community. That has been the essence of what makes us what we are today. So again, outside of the volunteer options that we've identified, being able to mentor new families and new individuals into leadership roles is what we're all about. We would never ask you guys to take on too much too soon. And we're going to understand what your strengths are and even what your weaknesses are, and make sure that you're comfortable knowing that the group is so broad, none of us get overburdened. I think genuinely I can speak for the entire organization and the leadership group in saying that we all genuinely enjoy serving in the capacities we do, because we're able to do what we like to do and allow other folks to be able to do the things that we may not be so great at. So we look forward to hearing from you guys in that regard. And if not, that's okay too. But know that there's a big group of people that you guys can always reach out to with questions, requests, or ideas about how Duluth 709 baseball can be better. Let me stop there real quick before we get into what this season is for us and what we want it to be, and get you guys to a Q&A so you can get your questions answered. Are there any high-level questions about volunteering or about just the background of the organization from our audience here before I move forward? I'll take that silence as a no, which is good. We will get into what we're looking at doing this year. I will start by telling you that our mission from the very beginning of 709 has been quite simple. It's been two primary practicums we've been trying to focus on. One, there's been certain inequities here, we believe, within the local neighborhood community associations, in which, 1 year Lake Park would be great, and then 2 years later Western would be great, and then a couple years after that Central or Eastern would be really good. But when you weren't really great, or there wasn't a strong leadership base coming through the neighborhood organization, your kids suffered because of that, because of just circumstance, or that there wasn't a lot of baseball-minded people able to operate those local neighborhood associations. So one of the primary motives we wanted to have is to create a consistent quality experience for all of the kids within the city to be able to rely on, and use the strength in numbers by coming together to achieve that. So that continues to be our objective, number one. Number two, as you've heard from the high school coaches, is we want to be able to prepare these kids to have a lasting and meaningful baseball experience beyond just their days here within the youth program. So we've used this as the formal feeder system to make sure that the high school coaches know who these kids are, have a voice and a hand in developing their practice content, and get a chance to know these families before they get to the high school level. And I think we're doing a pretty good job on both those fronts. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and share a quick org chart of what the associations around the community look like and how they feed into the higher systems here in town. Let me reclaim the host role from you, Phil, here for a second. And I will share the hierarchy board if everyone can see that. Corey, I think you're the one that developed this, and I think it's a really great slide that helps people understand where you start and kind of where you eventually end up, and then the connecting lines between where a youth player starts and where he goes from there. Why don't you go ahead and give us a high-level rundown as to how the baseball progression works within the greater city of Duluth?
Yeah, so this chart, we put this together just so we had complete clarity on where your kid should play at each level and what the flow up to all the way through high school, how that gets there and what the stops are in between, and you know, what ages and levels each organization represents. So if we start at the bottom there, we're kind of a 3-tiered youth level with Western Duluth Little League, basically out west, just as it's described there, western part of town. And that's they have everything from ages 4 to 9, T-ball intro rookies. They also have a 9U tournament team at that top level there that plays some tournaments. Same thing, it's kind of the sister organization at that level of Lake Park Baseball. A little bit larger organization in there as far as number of players, but same type of thing, ages 4 to 9. You got rookies, T-ball, instructional minors, 9U tournament team. So all the opportunities there to start playing baseball all the way up into where you get to the next level. I shouldn't forget to mention Duluth Little League is another organization that has baseball. They take a little bit slightly different approach than what we do here as far as a little bit of gameplay. They still follow the Little League model, and they have opportunities ages 4 to 12 kind of listed there as well. So once you get through the youth level there, you graduate up into Duluth709 baseball. And again, we're in the 4th year of operation. We put all of these levels together in order to combine opportunities all the way across town, have ability or tournament teams at all the different levels to match ability. So AAA, AA, single A, from the ages of 10U to 15U. You can see the league teams, how they're organized there, kind of almost on the field that they play on. Majors is your standard field there, ages 10 to 11. Modified is a modified field up in between a full field. That's got a base length of 50 or a mound length of 52 and base length of 75. And then the full field is your full baseball field. So it breaks up those 3 levels there. So that's what we are. We're kind of the middle tier there as far as where you play baseball and what opportunities are there between league team opportunities and or tournament teams. Once we push up there, once you get into the high school age levels, that's where it breaks up a little bit differently. Denfeld and Marshall players combine there in the summer to form a junior legion team this year, which was kind of brought in last year versus the VFW option that was there before. It just has a little bit more of a different age grouping, but the junior legion on the west side there combined with Denfeld and Marshall kids is called the Whitecaps. And you've got the legion team, which is West Duluth Cubs. So, and again, that forms summer opportunities for Denfeld and Marshall high school players there. Over on the east side, you've got VFW teams and a legion team. And then, obviously they all come from East High School there. So there's plenty of opportunities there. We look at the high school levels. It really pretty simply lays that out. East has certainly more numbers, so they have the ability to, Coach Stilgendall has different opportunities there for a couple other, I think he calls them B and C squads or however he labels the teams, but it goes down to what we would call kind of a freshman team, sophomore team, JV and varsity. Marshall has, numbers that kind of ebb and flow from year to year, the varsity and the JV, and then Coach Wickland runs Denfeld High School there. So you can kind of see from the top down where everything starts and where everything finishes. And, really it's been our goal for a long time as we put everything together at the 709 level, as we started working with all of our high school coaches. And as we have contacts all the way through the local college community on beyond that, we're also very committed to having this organization push all the way up into college opportunities as well. So this just gives you an idea of how it all works. And if anybody has any questions on anything in between there, contacts for any of these organizations, we're always happy to get you to the right people to ask questions and find out more.
Appreciate it, Corey. Thank you. While I got the slide still up, does anybody in the audience have any questions about just the structure of how things progress as your kids get older through the Northland system. Good time to stop and take any Q&A, just as it relates to where your kids are likely at in the process and where they're potentially going. Okay, great. Again, this slide is available upon request, and happy to go from there. Just checking my chat here to see, it looks like we have some questions here from some of the folks. Mention, okay, good question. What is the scheduling change to get 12 and 13s more involved in umping from Mike Sanawa? Only asking as I have an 11 and 7, coordinating schedules for my wife and getting everyone everywhere. I know my 13 is interested in umping. Great question, Mike. And we'll get into this later on, but I will answer your question straight away up front, just in case you're running out of time. In years past, Quad Cities has accidentally overlapped some of these dates that prevent the 12 and 13s from working minors games. This year, we've been able to structure that to avoid that. So what that means is on Mondays and Wednesdays, the majors kids will play and the modified field kids will play. So the 10 and 11s will play on Monday, and the 12 and 13 modified field kids will play on Monday and Wednesday as well. That means that the full field kids, the 14 and 15-year-old kids will play on Tuesday and Thursday, as well as the minor league games will be on Tuesday and Thursday. So what that allows, since Mike, your oldest, is going to be playing on Monday and Wednesday, if he wanted to umpire on Tuesday and Thursday through Chad's group, he would be able to do that at the minor league level and start some introductory officiating training. Vice versa, since the full field kids are also playing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, these are the 14 and 15-year-olds, they will be able to work on Mondays and Wednesdays in the majors program, typically as part of their second or third year of officiating, once they've been able to start finding their voice and work on their judgment. So that's not only a benefit to your kids, but it's also a benefit to the organization. I hope that answers your question. Susie Servin asked, can a 12-year-old stay in majors? One of the things we try to do at 709 is make sure that every kid is playing at a place in which their ability will allow them to continue to enjoy in the game and be challenged. And that can be a fine line sometimes. We want to make sure that they're with their friends, because I typically like that. But if a particular kid is just getting started or has some confidence issues and we need to start him a little bit of a lower level and let him work back into his age group, there's certainly a petitioning process involved through the board to allow that to happen. So if indeed that is something you guys wanted to look at, Susie, please feel free to reach out to myself or Tom Beresford as part of the Player Development Committee through the website, and we can continue that discussion with you as well.
If I could just add on to that a little bit, our goal ultimately is to make sure kids are playing at the level that they should be playing at for safety, strength, and whatever the case may be. So yes, nothing is hard and fast or needs to be hard and fast. We can look at each case individually. If you have a petition request, you can find the email address on the board website, write up what your situation is, and just shoot us an email and we will get back to you about how we would address that. Good question.
Yeah, great question. Both excellent questions. Ann writes, do we know if there will be an East ninth grade team or C team for the coming season? Sil, if you're still on, if you want to take that question, I think it'd be good to come from you.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, we actually just got clarification last week that we will be having a B and C team at East this year. So working on getting games scheduled up and kind of looking forward to working with them. Not exactly sure how we're going to work with space, because space is going to be limited with all the sports starting at once. But I also believe March 8th is another deadline for the Minnesota State High School League to give us a little bit more direction. But to answer your question, yes, we will have a B and C team this year at East.
Excellent.
So
with the audience being go ahead, Tom.
Steph, before we move on, Sil, could you address, I've had this question asked of a couple parents. I know for your B and C team, and for any participation in high school sports, kids need to get their physicals done. Kids that maybe haven't played a high school sport yet. Can you just touch on that quickly if and when they need to have that turned in by or get that done?
Yeah. So in order to come to our Arm Care Week, which starts March 22nd, as of right now, March 22nd is our Arm Care Week. Dates and times for that week will be sent out and shared. For the middle school age kids, I believe that's going out on Monday. But biggest thing is to have the physical on file. Once we get to forming the teams, we got to have you have to be registered through the school. And I'm trying to get that process started to where hopefully we could just get everyone registered and the physicals on file right away. So, but if you're planning on even trying out or going to the Arm Care Week, I need to have a physical on file.
Good question. I think the format we're using here in terms of putting the questions in the chat is ideal based on the overall size of the meeting. Susie, Mike, Ann, all really, really good questions and relevant to tonight's discussion. If anyone else has questions, feel free to pop them on the board as we move forward, and I'll be checking it at periodic times throughout the rest of the rundown here to make sure we get those things addressed, and we'll open it up for a general Q&A at the end. Anything else at this point before I move on?
Hey, just to add to that real quick, the registration form and the physical form can be found on the Duluth East Athletic website through ISD 709. So it's easy to find.
Great. Thank you, Sil. Let's get into some more specifics about what the front of the year is going to look like just as we get ready and rolling here. We talked about the hierarchy org chart. We'll get into the 2021 outlook here and talk about registration. Registration right now is open through March 20th. That is a soft date for us. We really want to get everyone registered and enrolled by the 20th because that allows us a little time to get out in front on the evaluation planning process. It allows us to communicate with not only the facilities, but our families in terms of when your players are going to be expected to show up. Allows us to organize our age groups and really make sure that the evaluation process is as efficient and stress-free as we can make it on the kids. We know that there's certain anxiety when it comes to being evaluated for anything. And we think this is a very productive process that in year 4 now, we feel we've gotten pretty good at. So will we accept registrations after March 20th? We will. But at the same time, to be considerate to not only the organization, but to your fellow families, please be sure to register before March 20th. As part of that registration, there's going to be a yes or no box in which you identify if your player wants to participate or be evaluated for the purposes of being on a tournament team. We'll talk a little bit later about tournament teams in terms of what that specifically means, but please make sure to check that box because we're not only evaluating for house league placement, we would also be evaluating them at the same time and those same dates for where they would fit into our tournament team rosters. They're not going to be asked to come separately. We know your time is valuable, but we want to know what their interest level is. You will find in registration that there is a payment plan available. So we're not, for families that might be under a little undue burden, you can stretch those funds out over the life of the season. I think there's quarterly payment options available. There's also a scholarship program involved through the organization. And you can reach out through the website if you are in hardship and still want your player to be able to play. First and foremost, if we have kids that are interested in playing, we don't want financial aspects to stop those opportunities. So to be very clear, if you're in hardship, you will be asked to give us a little background as to the nature of that hardship and what you can do in lieu of registration to be able to support the organization with additional volunteer hours or other items like that. But we want to make sure if you are in that position that your kid still gets an opportunity to have a great summer on the field. As it relates to 8 and 9Us, if there's any families out there with younger brothers or sisters and or kids that want to play majors that aren't 10 years old yet, but feel like they're of an ability to play the full game at that level, you can, again, reach out to the board through the Duluth 709 website and let them know that you'd like to petition your kid in to be evaluated to play at the majors level and get drafted onto a team there. After evaluations, and once we've determined the tournament teams, we will reopen a new registration just for tournament team players. The reason we have a separate registration for tournament team players is there are additional costs involved with being on a tournament team. And we also need to collect all the particulars for your jersey sizes, pant sizes, hat sizes, all those things we will need specifically for the purposes of tournament teams as well. So that will happen after those rosters have been formed, and you can expect that at a later date. Lastly, as it relates to registration, our 8th graders and 9th graders, our 14U kids and our 15U kids, there's going to be a little bit of a change this year in terms of how we evaluate those kids. By all means, we want them to register on or before March 20th, much like they would do in any typical year. This year, however, as opposed to having 709 evaluate them and having the high schools evaluate them a week later and putting them through that additional time and rigor, we have streamlined that process this year. We are asking all 14 and 15U full field players to attend their respective high school league evaluations. We will have a presence there at 709. We will be working in conjunction with the high school coaches and their staffs, much like you've heard earlier in the call, to understand where all these kids are at. And we will allow the high school coaches to determine which of those 8th and 9th graders they would like to bring into the prep environment for the coming season, not only for the spring, but potentially look at also if they would be offering them a roster spot as part of Junior Legion or VFW this summer. So we understand which of those 14 and 15U players will be involved at the prep level in the spring, which ones will be asked to continue into the summer. And all of those players that may or may not be asked to join those teams, we continue to offer a really great experience through the 14 and 15U house league games at Duluth709 against the local community, and also the 14 and 15U tournament teams against the greater state of Minnesota. One thing I will say as it relates to having those evaluations done in conjunction with the high school development programs is you have to understand that from a larger perspective, especially when it comes to 8th graders, it is fairly rare for an 8th grader to be asked into a high school program early. Even in some cases with the 9th graders. I know Chris Silliendahl's 9th grade team is available, but not all 9th graders will make that team. And if your player does not make one of the prep teams, it is important for them to understand that that is not a remedial thing to play for 709, and that a good majority of his friends and teammates are likely playing with 709 as well. It is not a remedial thing to come and play AA, AAA, single A here and get the reps they need to continue their development at the local level. So we'll be working in conjunction again with the high school coaches to communicate those things to those kids and make sure that whether their progression and development happens through the high school team or whether their progression and development happens through Duluth709, that we're structuring our season in a way that allows them to really have an enjoyable year and allows them to continue to make sure that they put their best foot forward leading into their subsequent high school years.
One thing further to stress here for the 8th and 9th graders, and Sil, jump in here if I say anything incorrectly, but in order for them to be a part of this evaluation process with East, Denfeld, Marshall, or anywhere else as an 8th or 9th grader to go into the high school to be a part of their evals, you do need to have a physical on file with the school to even participate in that. So getting ahead of that now is going to be important because well, we're only a month away from that process beginning. So if your player does not have a physical on file with the school, you're going to need to do that.
Okay, thank you for reiterating that, Tom. I think those are all my high points on registration. Tom, you bring up another good one. Corey, I'd refer to you. Is there any other points I've omitted that are relevant to our audience here tonight?
No, I don't think so. I think we're we're touching on everything that we need and want our families to know up front here. We do also have a preseason checklist that we kind of publish. It'll be on our website. It'll be updated here. You get that out as well. That'll kind of highlight all the different things that you want to be aware of as the season gets into full shape here. So, and obviously we're going to be getting any other information out as we go. We can with reminders on the dates coming up for evals and anything else, definitely in the 14, 15-year-old age group there, and anything else on our calendar here coming up. So, but no, I think you've touched on quite a bit there, Seth.
Appreciate it. I'm going to check the chat here real quick, see if there's any open questions that we need to address. Feel free to post those up if they're lingering with you. Looks like no new questions right now. I'll come back to that here after the next segment. Next segments will be the evaluations themselves, just so you guys know what to expect. Obviously, this is a different year. The timing is a little different for a couple different reasons. First and foremost, obviously with the challenges of COVID here, the winter sports season, thankfully, have been able to get underway and should see it, themselves to a successful close. But that close has lags by about a full month compared to when those sports typically close. Usually those teams are done the first week of March, last week of February, based on their respective playoff runs. This year, some of those runs may run them right through the end of March. So we need to adjust accordingly to make sure that these kids aren't getting burnt out, that they have time to put their basketballs and hockey sticks and skis away before we ask them to really get serious and get dialed in for the spring sports season. For that reason, we will hold evaluations between April 7th and 11th. This, again, will all be part of the checklist that's posted onto our homepage. You don't have to commit that to memory. There will be a reference document, and it will be within our social media leading up to those dates to make sure you guys are prepared. A few of the other changes as it relates to evaluations is historically, we've always done our evaluations in one of the collegiate field houses, whether that's up at CSS, over at UWS, or the Ward Wells Fieldhouse at UMD. Those have been ideal locations for us to do them inside. Due to the challenges, again, of the pandemic, those options are not going to be available to us. So through the creativity of the committee, it looks like we're going to be able to lock in and use the outdoor baseball turf facility up at Terry Egerdahl Field in Proctor the weekend of April 10th and 11th. We're working on finalizing our times there as we speak. And we'll be utilizing that outdoor turf at a minimum for the purposes of evaluating running and fielding and potentially all of the different skills. If we can't get enough time out there, we will move the evaluations for hitting and pitching inside to the strike zone over on the Howard Ganeson Road here in the Upper Woodland Rice Lake. And we will do those in small group settings. So a little more time might be required there, but allows us to get a better look at each and every one of the players coming out. And all of those dates, whether they're at strike zone, or all those efforts, whether they're at strike zone or over up at Terry Egerdahl, will happen between the window of April 7th and 11th, unless there are any major pullbacks in terms of MDs or weather-related issues to getting outside. So beyond that, I really think that is the high points as it relates to evaluations. We'll talk about team forming thereafter, but let me turn it over to some of our board membership to add anything I may have omitted there.
Yeah, I guess one thing I would just add is, April in our area is iffy at best as far as getting outside. We have well-intended intentions to be out on the turf. Hopefully at Proctor it works out. If we do not have weather conducive to holding the evals, we're going to need to have some flexibility there within our families, within schedules, in order to get this done. If we have to move inside or push it out further. So we intend to try to do this all within a short period of time, but weather could dictate that things don't go as we plan. So we just ask that you'd all be flexible, be in tune to our communication. There will be more to come with more specific schedule as far as when we can get this all planned out. But again, just we'd ask that you're ready to be flexible if and when we need to be before bad weather.
Good point. Anybody else as it relates to just the process of evaluations? Steve writes in the chat, do the 8th and 9th grade kids just do the high school evals? And when are those? To broadly answer your question, Steve, yes. If your child is of 14U age or 15U age, or more specifically is an 8th or 9th grader, we would like to see them get evaluated through the high school evaluations and tryouts. To answer the back end of your question in regards to what school evaluations are, let's turn it over to our high school coaches.
Just before Sil answers this question, there could be some 10th graders that are 15U eligible as well. That could be in the mix too. So it's not just 8th and 9th graders. There could be some 10th graders as well in the mix here. Sil, go ahead.
All right, like I said before, March 8th is a new date for the Minnesota State High School League to come out with new guidelines and dates for us. But as of right now, the week of March 29th is the start for us. Times and locations for our tryouts or evaluations is still to be determined because we have track and field, softball, boys and girls golf, and boys tennis as of right now, all starting on March 29th, and everyone needs a place to be. So as of right now, it's just the week of March 29th, times, locations that will all get out once we get that.
So how are you communicating these updates? Where can people go to find out more specific info about what you have in your planning purvey?
I guess there's going to be multiple ways. You can go to our Twitter account. That's where we do most of our immediate up-to-date stuff, and that's at DEHS Baseball. Through the high school, you can reach out to the activities director at East Shawn Road. He'll have any information. I'll be sending out stuff through the weekly flyer, whatever goes out with the middle school, since that's where I'm working, and same thing with the high school. I'll get that out with their weekly bulletin. I'm always available for phone call or email, whichever is easiest, but usually pretty easy to get a hold to. So
and I think on top of that, we will have more information as it becomes available on our Duluth709 page. Andy Hayden will help us out getting that posted as it permits. And just not to leave Denfeld and Marshall out of the conversation here. I think Coach Wickland jumped off the call, but Denfeld folks, you're gonna have a similar communication. We'd ask that you reach out to Coach Wickland directly or the Denfeld administration to figure out their tryout dates if you have an 8th or 9th grader that's looking for that information. And same goes for Marshall, I would assume, Seth and Coach Ceremonies.
Yeah, I think that week is going to be identical, and anything that changes as of that March 8th update from the high school league is likely to uniformly affect all high schools in the same way because they're all kind of working underneath the same criteria. So I think the one thing that you mentioned that I want to reiterate is when those things change for the high schools, since all the coaches serving in a board capacity with us, that's going to be communicated directly. And we will mirror that communication via our website through Andy Hayden. So by all means, reach out to your schools and use the resources available through those weekly email updates they provide you. But our homepage will also be a really good source of information for you to go to, since we're connected with all of those programs from the bottom up. Okay, I think that answers the only one. Mike, you're apologizing here for putting a Q&A in the chat. Please don't. Your idea to start putting those questions in the chat, since you were the first one, I think makes this meeting run even better rather than us potentially speaking over each other. So thank you for starting this. And by all means, I hope we got your question answered there. Let's move on to the next segment. There's only 2 more segments to go for those looking at the clock, trying to figure out when they're going to be able to go to bed. We talked about evaluations. We talked about registration. The last 2 segments will be on house league team selections and the season details for our house league teams. And then also our tournament team selections and what the tournament season details are likely to be for those teams. So we'll start with house league, since all of our kids are likely to participate in house leagues, at least through 13, and potentially a good majority of the 14 and 15-year-olds as well. Again, we plan to complete evaluations by the end of day April 11th. And we plan to have house league teams selected with coaches named and being put in communication with our families no later than April 25th. That's 2 weeks after the completion of evaluations. That's for majors and modified age groups, the 2 younger divisions. The oldest division, the full field, their 14 and 15U group, we plan to have those teams formed and communications with the families on or before May 2nd. The reason for the delay with the full field is it takes a little more time for the high school coaches to evaluate their kids. They're looked at over a longer period of time. And we also want to understand what commitments they are wanting to roster for not only the high school season, but the subsequent summer leagues as well. And that takes a little more time to ascertain. Hence the reason that will be a 1 week off in terms of establishing the full field rosters. Practices will start with all these groups as soon as we're able to get outside. Right now, it looks like we're ahead of schedule, but that was probably the kiss of death. So hopefully it stays this way. It would be great to be outside in late April. But some of the work we're going to put in here early at the field through Ryan's committee group to help try to expedite that frost out of the ground. Be aware that there'll be some volunteer hours to try to get our teams outside as soon as possible. There may also be some indoor practices based on coach requests and availability there as well. As it relates to the majors division, gameplay is expected to start with Quad Cities through by the 3rd week of May, that Monday. Gameplay, as mentioned previous, will be Mondays and Wednesdays for Majors Division 10 and 11-year-old kids. And that particular league season will run with playoffs completing the 2nd week of August. One second here, put you on mute. For the modified teams, again, this is almost identical. It is identical to what the majors division will be. This is the 12 and 13-year-old league. Again, gameplay will start the 3rd week of May. League games will happen Mondays and Wednesdays, with the playoffs completing the 2nd week of August again. The full field division, gameplay will start a little later, the 1st week of June. Again, this is working in conjunction with the high schools. We need to give them a little more time. Tuesdays and Thursdays will be the league nights for full field, with the playoffs completing the 2nd week of August for that group as well. Games will typically start at 6 p.m. That is the goal of the Quad Cities League, to try to start all games at 6 p.m. Sometimes that has to move for different circumstances.
Hi, Dad. You destroyed all my cards.
One second, let me find a quiet space. Okay, games start at 6 p.m. If there's any deviation from that, we'll try to give parents as much notice as we can.
Prior to each game, our primary practice time also aligns with game night. We ask for every player to show up 1 hour prior to the start of the game to get through a full set of hitting, fielding, and throwing, as that is our ideal time to work together to be efficient with our summertime together. Some coaches may schedule time outside of game nights to work on additional items or get particular kids additional reps as needed. But what we're trying to do here is not totally commit your summers to the baseball field. By allowing practices to happen leading up to games, that keeps you at the field 2 nights a week and makes the other 5 days of the week available to go do other things that you might like to do in the summer. So just trying to be efficient and respectful of your time as it relates to our house league scheduling. Let me turn it over to any of the other board members to fill in any of the gaps and identify any house league stuff that I may have omitted or incorrectly stated. Anybody from the board? Okay. Last segment, let me check the chat for any follow-up questions. No, looks like we're in the clear right now in terms of Q&A. Let me close out with a discussion on tournament team selections and tournament team details. Tournament teams. Our goal is to name our tournament teams on or before April 18th. That is somewhat of a challenging date because it means naming all of our teams at all of our levels within a week of evaluations. We try to prioritize those lists because that is where certain cuts can happen, and we don't want kids going to school or being worried any more than they have to be in terms of what team they made and what roster they're going to be on. So we really try to be as timely as we can in terms of notifying each family and every player where they're invited to play for tournament team weekends. And we expedite that as quickly as we can through the player development committee and the high school coaches. It is our intention to have 2 tournament teams at every age group level. And that is subject to overall interest to form 2 rosters and making sure we have the right coaches to coach those teams. It has not been an issue to date, but there are some contingencies there. The tournament teams will play 5 weekends. Those weekends are the last week of May, the 28th to the 30th, June 11th through the 13th, which will be the majority of our teams playing through the Duluth Golden Spike tournament here in town. They will also play June 25th and 27th in the Proctor Classic, which is another local tournament. And then they'll have a little break in the schedule for about 2 or 3 weeks and play the last week of July, the 23rd through the 25th up in Cloquet. It's part of the Northland Classic. And then finally, they will close out play with the following weekend there, July 30th through August 1st, through our host tournament, the Art Vaughn. If they qualify for state through either the May 8th through 28th weekend or through our Golden Spike event, they will be invited to play in the state tournament, which depending upon classifications will be one of the first 3 weekends of July. Again, all this stuff will be posted to our website so you guys can plan your seasons accordingly and make sure that you guys can make that sort of commitment before you check the yes box as part of registration. I was trying to think if there's anything else from a tournament team standpoint. Let me open it up to the board. Any questions or additional comments from the board as it relates to tournament teams?
A couple of things I'll add in there. As 709 was formed, one of the main objectives of our group was to give as many kids as possible the opportunity to play extra baseball outside of just a couple nights a week in your house league. You know, the 15 or 20 games we get to play in house league. So if your player has interest in playing on some weekends and being a part of a tournament team, I think those that have participated in the past have had good experiences. For those of you that are new to 709 baseball, we try to include as many players as possible on these teams. There's a spot for players of any ability. So if the numbers are there for us to have 2 teams at each age level, that's what we're going to do. If we have enough kids at a couple age levels to have 3, that's what we're going to do. If we don't have enough to have 2 teams, we're going to have 1. So just know that we encourage all kids that want to play a little bit more to come out to these teams or for these teams. I think it's worked really, really well to classify through the 3 different levels of play that Gopher State kind of provides. There's A, AA, and AAA levels of play for these teams. And we've had teams qualify for the state tournament at all those levels and have real good baseball experiences, irregardless of everyone's ability. So I just really encourage you, if your player wants to do a little bit more, check the box of, yes, I want to try out for a tournament team, give it a shot. I think we've found over the years that people that have been on the fence and participating with it show up to evals, maybe grade out a little bit better than they think they would have, or they're evaluated for maybe a little different team than they thought they might fit in on. And we've seen some encouraging things about kind of a player's longevity in the game based off of their experiences, at the younger ages with these tournament teams. So if you're hesitant at all to get your player involved, or your player's hesitant at all, I'd encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity to do a little bit more than just the house league.
Good point. Anybody else on the board as it relates to the tournament team selection process or the intended season? Take that as a no. I just had a question come in through the chat. If we are already registered and clicked undecided for tournament team, who do we let know if we have decided yes, he would like to try out? We'll come to you guys if you've checked undecided. That's a point of clarification. That's the reason we give you that option of registration. We'll typically reach out to those families through the player development committee and see kind of what's driving the hesitation, and make sure that we give you guys enough information to make a good choice there. So
and I would add on to that our registration is kind of a means for us to get an idea of who's going to show up and where they're going to fall as far as our evaluation process goes. When we actually get to the evaluation process, there is going to be kind of a re-registration. Our check-in process during evals is will be a spot where you can just tell us again what your intentions are. All the kids are evaluated together, so if there's a change of thought about yes, I want to participate, or no, I don't, that's an easy thing for us to make an adjustment on when we get to the eval. So just be thinking about it. If you have other questions that come up about tournament teams or house league, just feel free to reach out and we can help you out with whatever they may be.
Yep, good point. Just to follow up to that question to the group, the Engstrom family reads, thanks, we are new to 709 and coming from Duluth Little League, so he's hesitant since this is a new league for him. To that, I can tell you that there's much like the org chart showed, inevitably all these kids graduate out of their local neighborhood youth programs and come into this setting collectively. So we have a good number of Eastern, Central, and Duluth Little League families that have preceded you here, and you should see some very familiar faces at the field. And by all means, feel free to reach out to them in regards to the experience they've had here and ask us the same questions. We're more than happy and excited to have you, and congratulations on your kid continuing to play. Another question through the chat regarding bats and cleats for the 13U level. 13U level can be metal, except when they are on a portable mound, they need to wear tennis shoes or turf shoes or rubber cleats. So it's a little bit of a confusing answer, but when they use metal cleats on the portable mounds, whether they are our mounds or one of the visiting facilities, those metal cleats really chew up the portable mounts. So typically speaking, a kid will wear his metal cleats to the field, and if he's asked to pitch, he'll just convert into his rubber cleats or turf shoes at that point in time to throw off the portable. As it relates to bats, USSSA 1.15 stamp bats are approved, as are USA stamp bats, as are wood bats. If you are using a USA or a USSSA 1.15 bat, you need to have a drop 10 bat or lower. You will see the insignia -10 on the bat. What that specifically means is that the length of the bat, for example, most 13Us will likely either use a 30-inch bat or a 31-inch bat. The ounce difference between the length is no more than a 10-ounce difference, meaning if it's a 30-inch bat, it won't weigh any less than 20 ounces. If it's a 31-inch bat, it won't weigh any less than 21 ounces. If you are shopping for bats and you want your kid to have the best performing bat possible, you want to find a bat with a USSSA stamp 1.15. They will perform better than the USA stamp bats or the wood bats. You can go to Play It Again Sports. Brian Ross has been a great supporter of our program over the years, and he can help you, and Steve Hollapa, his general manager, could help you with a great bat selection for your player. They are very much baseball people and are really used to outfitting kids to make sure that they are in a comfortable bat to swing for the season, and their customer support is awesome. And it also helps you support a local organization. So a follow-up to the bats and cleats questions, tournaments and USA bats. Yes, you can use your USSSA bat in both league and in tournaments. Looks like they're clicking me to a website here.
Andy Hayden just provided in the chat a link to the bat standards for Gopher State baseball, which would encompass all the tournaments that we would be a part of and our house league play.
That is a great reference. Thank you for posting that, Webmaster Andy. That should provide a reiteration and a good reference for literature for approved bat standards for all of our given age levels. Awesome. Let's open it up for general questions. I think this is a great spot. We have a really nice audience tonight that's kind of been a little bit fluid, but it's been a little bit of a longer meeting. I think we're about an hour-and-a-half mark. We've covered a ton of ground. If you guys have questions specific to your player, your family, or anything in between, great time to use the chat to get any advice or any information you would need as part of this meeting. That's what a town hall is all about. While we're waiting on questions to come in, board members, if you have any thoughts or additional content regarding our hopes and our goals for the season, now is a really good time to kind of identify any items that I may have omitted or didn't get into our primary agenda.
Well, Seth, as we wait for questions to come in here, I think one thing that we can touch on as well is if there's any interest in coaching from anybody that wants to get involved, especially with our league teams, regular season teams, but even at a tournament team level, obviously easy way to get back your volunteer fee, your hours, but just to be involved, whether it's for the benefit of your own kid, also with being a part of a team. So there's a registration at the front of our website for any coaches that are interested to register there. Well, then, as teams are put together, then coaching opportunities are also assigned as well. So that's where you need to go to get involved there, to be a coach. Again, you don't have to have this all world level of baseball experience to get involved and also make an impact as a coach, as an assistant, helping out with the team in whatever capacity may be needed. There's a lot of those opportunities as well. So.
Yeah, the only other thing I would piggyback on Corey's statement there is we've developed a really good practice plan curriculum for our incoming coaches. I think that there's guys that have a super extensive background in baseball and coaching comes easy to them. Then we got other folks that don't know a thing about the game. And, you know, maybe there's other ways for them to participate besides coaching. But there's a great number of people that have a limited baseball experience, a limited background, that played through Little League or played through Senior League, but stop there and know enough about the game and have enough good communication skills to be a good steward of the game to these kids. But they need help with content. They need help understanding what their teams need to be working on, or the messages they're trying to instill, or how to do some in-game management stuff to keep your team on track. We have just a ton of resources, not only through practice plan manuals and content, but personal resources. Guys like Corey, guys like Tom, guys like Ryan, the high school coaches. I mean, there's just a ton of access points for guys that want to do, or even gals that want to do the right thing and step up and help coach a house league team or assist with a tournament team. And it's important to know that you're not going to be left out on an island, that you have a lot of resources to count on when it comes to that stuff. We really haven't gotten any questions here, which is okay because we've really been fielding questions throughout. Let me open it up to the board one more time for any additional content or thoughts. And we'll give it about a minute here. If there's nothing, I think we're going to get ready to adjourn and let people enjoy the rest of their Sunday evenings, knowing that we're just an email or a phone call away. Any other thoughts from the board? Okay. With no other questions posted in the chat, I thank everyone for their attendance tonight. Like I said, more so than anything else, I want you guys to understand how big of a network and how big of a family you're coming into here this year. Whether you've played 709 before or are just getting here now, this is a different sort of youth organization. We're very wide and robust in terms of the level of volunteerism, and it's something we aren't desperate for, but highly encourage, because it not only improves the experience for your kid, quite frankly, it improves the experience for you as parents as well. It gets you into social circles you've never been in before. It allows you to really kind of create a baseball lifestyle. And I think that there's a lot of families that have really enjoyed that over many years here. So thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. This recording will be posted to our social media if you ever have to refer back to it. And we look forward to seeing you here in the coming months. Thanks, everybody. Have a great year.
Good work.